Hi and welcome to Women at Work. My name is Meenakshi Sajeev, and through this series, I'm going to introduce you to some amazing women with such stellar career paths. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to Nazreen Nizam. Nazreen is an architect by her undergraduate degree, and she's went on to do her master's in IIT Bombay in HCI Human Computer Interaction. Nazreen has worked with prestigious firms as a UX designer, and right now she's in Amsterdam working with Booking.com as a user researcher. Let's ask Nazreen and find out more about how she has carved her career thus far. Welcoming Nazreen Nizam to Women at Work. Hi Nazreen, welcome to Women at Work.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
So, just to begin with, I've already given an introduction on who you are. So you are an architect by your undergraduate degree, right? So was it a very obvious choice growing up that you always wanted to be an architect, or was it something that you stumbled upon?
So my maternal family, so they have a lot of civil engineers and we have a construction consultancy. So I've always grown up seeing people in the house discussing plans and structures and my grandfather is a civil engineer, so he used to build a lot of religious structures like mosques and temples, and he used to do a lot of restoration projects because he's a civil engineer. So I've always grown up with these conversations of having structures and things about buildings and architecture. And that's how I got a little bit more passionate about it, I think. And so when I had a career choice, I thought, there's already a legacy for that. So I thought I'll take it up. And of course, like all the architects say, you have some interest in art and like drawing and all that. So I had all that passion in school. But mainly, I think it was just those conversations with my grandfather about buildings and how he had a passion for restoring them. So I think once there's a mosque near my house which my grandfather had built. So I was, I think around maybe 14 years, I was having a sip up in the nearby store. So two very old uncles, they came out and they said that, each time they go to that mosque, they feel it's such a special place to go to. And then I was like, I went back home and I told my grandfather, and he said that's what basically architects live for, like just to get that response from people about how that building can make an impact in their lives. And at that time, it didn't matter to me when I just, it was like a random conversation that I had with my grandfather. But I think when I started doing architecture as a degree, it sort of made a lot of more sense to me. That like it's a building that can make a lot of difference, and people make it a part of their lives very fast, especially religious structures. So yeah, I think growing up in that family influenced my decision to take up architecture.
So you did your architecture in College of Engineering, Trivandrum, which is one of the best institutes in Kerala. And could you tell me a little bit about how that kind of allied with these thoughts with which you took architecture, or how it went against the thoughts? It might go either way, right? So could you tell me how the education, especially architecture, an undergrad degree in architecture in Kerala is? I know that this might be biased because this is one of the best institutions to study architecture in Kerala. Even then, I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, so I think CET is known for a lot of good architects, right? So, you just don't get, college education, but also you get a lot of on-ground practice because the college itself has a lot, many alumni connects and, a lot of architects like coming back and giving us lectures on their practice experience. So I think that's a good point because the alumni is so well connected with the architecture college that you always have sessions from architects who are on the ground and working. This is something that I think lots of institutes cannot give. So CET has that sort of legacy of having good architects in their alumni. So I think that's one advantage. Yeah, very rich in alumni. And a lot of architects in Trivandrum itself, right? Like I think all the famous architects in Trivandrum are actually graduates of CET. So yeah, so they always come back to the institute to give talks and give practice to students, and they're very fond of having CET interns in their offices. So I think that's one thing I really liked about CET when I was doing my undergrad there, the connect that you have with the field work. Mm-hmm. But of course, as any government college, you have to have that drive in you, right? So, it's not like there's going to be a lot of spoon feeding or there's a lot of, like people telling you this and that should make you an architect. No, it's going to be a lot more choice on what subjects you like. And I think a lot of my classmates also struggled in that. Like, do you like this, or do you want to do that? Do you want to do urban design? Do you like landscape architecture? Because you don't have a spoon feeding on any subjects. Like, they'll let you do what you want and stuff like that. So I think that is sometimes it's good for some people who have the passion towards architecture. But sometimes if with people who are like, sort of there because they just got the course, something like that, it can be like a not a motivating thing because it's a very flexible
Can feel a
system, I
little
think.
bit left alone, right? To their own
Yes, yeah,
devices. Okay.
yeah. And I think as a student, you really have to have that drive on your own to sort of succeed in that course because it's a very flexible system. And you really need to have the passion to complete those 5 years the way you want it. So I think that is one thing that could go in both directions for you as a student. Yeah.
So what pushed you to UX design from architecture? Because if I remember right, you have practiced as an architect as well, right? Before you went on to do that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I think so. I told you, right. So I was very passionate about like seeing my work come alive. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. So as an architect, also, I wanted to see some of my designs come into the real life and see people enjoy it. So that I think that's why I wanted to give 1 year of practice to see how I can do this. But also, when I was doing my final year, I had given my SEED exam. So SEED is the exam that you need to qualify into design.
Mm-hmm.
So I had given SEED, and when I wrote SEED, SEED had 2 years validity. So I took that liberty of taking 1 year as, like I'll practice for a year, and if I still want to do masters in design, I would get that 1 year buffer. But when I worked as an architect, I sort of realized that it's actually a longer path, to get yourself established. Because you have to like work for a lot of years, and then like people you have to find a name in that field, and you have a lot of patience. Actually, it's not even hard work. I would say you need a lot of patience in this profession, and for me as a person, I felt I don't have that patience. So I know a lot of my classmates are still like they've become wonderful architects. They've all their offices and they've established so much, but they all have a lot of patience to be in this field. So I felt that I should be in a position where I could see the impact of my work and grow much faster. So that's when I decided to do masters. So I think that was a drive to try masters for me.
So, Nasreen, can I just interrupt you right there?
Yeah.
So this is a question that might come because I'm an outsider to the field of architect. Uh, do you
Yeah.
think there is a sort of gender imbalance in the whole field of being an architect? Because my knowledge might be limited, but if you take international names, the first name of a female that would come to your head is Zaha Hadid, and not a lot
Yeah.
and even in India, and even in my city, and I live in Trivandrum, and my city is filled with architects from CET. And even if you take,
Mhm.
even if you take all the architects in Kerala, even if you look at the design magazines, and I love buildings. I'm a civil engineer myself. I was at least.
Yeah.
I subscribe to all these design magazines and all these pages on Instagram. And all these names that I see first are mostly names of men. And it's very rarely that you find a female established architect. I mean, there are, but I think the ratio is not very fair compared to other fields, right? And do you really
Yeah.
think, as a person in the industry or who's familiar with the industry, do you think there's a gender imbalance in this field? And would that be a reason for you to stray away from architecture as well?
So I think definitely there is a gender imbalance, but I think the reason is something that we can take 2 steps back and think. So, like from my perspective, once you graduate at 23, you have to sort of invest in learning the practice of architecture, just like law or anything. You have to work under great architects, or you have to work under premier architecture firms, and you have to sort of invest, like, let's say, 4 to 5 years to sort of learn the industry as well, because it's a craft.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people could go wrong, where, like after 23, girls, or let's say women at that age, have a constraint of getting married, or, like there's lots of other household issues that come into their lives that I don't know if they actually get those 5 years to do or enrich their craft. And maybe that is one reason I feel that is strongly opposing women architects in maybe, like rising up at that level. So that 5 years, just as you do in the uni, is quite important for an architect to learn the craft, to practice under premier architects, to know what you like in architecture. Like, even if you say you're an architect, what do you like? Do you like doing homes? Do you like doing shopping centers? Or do you like commercial buildings? Do you like doing landscape? Just to have that craft is quite important. And I think that 5 years, I don't know how many
And to
girls or
develop their
women out there.
style is also very important, right? And I think it's very
Exactly.
critical in those beginning years to develop a style of work.
Yes. Yeah. But how many of us actually get that liberty to just focus on that craft for 5 years? Like, I'm sure that, like you and me, we know that that 5 years has like a lot of other questions of your future. So I feel that 5 years, if you give it to women architects, that could make their lives much better, and we could see more women architects on the field. But I think that's a strong reason why maybe we don't have enough women architects compared to like men architects that time, because I think they have that liberty of taking those 5 years to sort of explore and enrich their craft, which I think women don't.
Very valid. Yeah. Yeah. Now, when I think about it, it's absolutely, that answer hits the head of the nail. Yeah. All right. So,
Yeah.
so tell me about masters. Like, how was the jump, and how was the whole experience into learning something new for masters?
Yeah. So, okay, when I was doing architecture, what I realized that I was really good at is maybe not design itself, but understanding what the client or people want. Okay. So maybe like, I was not sure if I would make like an excellent design or something like, but I really would, I had a lot of patience to understand the client brief and break it down. I have a lot of questions when like clients give me a brief. Like, for example, when an IT couple tells me that they need a home, I would have a lot of questions like, like, do you like outdoor activity? Then do you want an outdoor space in your house, etc., etc. So I realized that I quite like this style of thinking about what people want. And so when I decided to give my MDes, I applied for all courses in IT. So when I was giving my, so the course I took was HCI, but I had also applied for product design in the same institute. So I'd gone for both interviews. So when I'd gone there, one of my professors who took my interview, he asked me, why did you apply for HCI? So I said, I don't know anything about it. I really have no idea exactly what the course is. But I realized that this is my strong field when I'm an architect. Like, I like thinking about what people want. And I think this is something that is also applicable for HCI, like thinking about how
Expand what
people
HCI
want to.
is.
It's human computer interaction.
Human computer interaction. All right. Thank you.
So I like how people interact with the system. So if you think about architecture, it's also a system, right? Like, you want to see how people interact with the space. So I like that sort of equation. So I wanted to see how that can be applied in HCI. And I told my professors, honestly, I don't know what the subject is. I really don't know, because I'm not from the same background. But I think this is one of my strong points as a person, to sort of be analytical about what people want. And they were like, so they had a studio test, and they told me that we also feel that's one of your strong points, because the test sort of validated how I'd given my answer to that. So they told me that's how I stumbled upon HCI. So it's like an applied field of architecture. So in the architecture field also, you are sort of building designs for somebody else. You're not building it for yourself, and you have to take care of all the factors that the other person wants. So that's how I transitioned into applying that into HCI. So HCI is also about understanding what people want with digital products, and that's what I do actually.
All right. All right. So how was the whole learning experience in IIT and with this new course? Like, it's like you said, it's a new thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of it's a lot technical than how you studied architecture, right? So
Exactly.
how
Yeah.
was there like a teething period, or do you struggle with one particular portion because you moved on from architecture into this particular field? And I'd like to know about the IIT experience. IIT Mumbai, right? Bombay.
Yeah. IT Bombay. Yeah. So I would say, so whenever I think in bachelor's, even you must have heard, when we meet IIT, and so somebody will be like, why are they so proud? Like, why are they super proud of their institute? And you feel like Indra Jade avarku. You would feel that, right? Or you would be like, why are they so proud of the institute? It's just an institute, right? But I think I know why IITians are proud of their institute now. It's not because they can get a flagship job, or it's nothing like that. It's because the teachers there are the most passionate teachers you'll ever meet, I think. The teachers there are so dedicated to students. They're so flexible. So they were very different from any teaching experience that I've ever encountered in my life. So, okay, let's say I have a lecture at 8:30. I would get up at 8:20, right? Like run for my lecture. But I would know my professor would be there. He would have printouts for all 12 of us of our notes. And we just have to highlight our notes. Like he would have done so much work before we enter our classes. So we would have the notes with us. We would have his presentation. We would be just highlighting whatever we have to do. It's more like, he has designed the whole day for us. And I would be like, where do these people have so much time and so much interest to interact with students? So they were so dedicated. And I think most of them who have been to that institute would say the same thing about their teachers. Their teachers are very dedicated to making students achieve their goals. So I think that also was very easy for me because they knew my background. They knew I was an HCI, like I was from architecture. I'm transitioning to HCI. So they told me what are the extra electives that I need to take to understand what is computer systems and things like that. So I had a C++ background from my plus one, plus two. So they told me you should take these courses to make sure that you are on par with your other classmates. And they helped me a lot, like in my initial semester to learn transition. Yeah.
What fields were your other classmates from mostly, other than architecture?
So we had 3 architects in my class. There were 2-3 CS grads. There were people from EC. There were lots of engineering grads actually. So I think EC and CS were one of common fields. There were BEd students from NIFT.
Okay.
And then there was also students who had done fashion,
right?
basic. Yeah, like NID grads were there, and then NIFT grads, so design graduates, and then architecture, and then of course engineering grads. So it's a mix actually.
Whom do you think is this course the easiest for? Do you think the CS students would have an edge, or you guys from the design background would have an edge?
So I'll tell you why they have a mixed classroom is because they really believe in peer learning in this program. For example, if I don't know something, I can definitely ask somebody from CS. And CS grads who don't know much about design can ask me. So if you for example, I was doing a lot of virtual reality projects when I was doing in my semesters, and I need think about a lot of things in 3D, which is easy for me, right? Because I'm from an architecture background. But it's very hard for a CS student to understand how to vision a space. And I could help that student, so we could team up for our projects. So they really believe in peer learning in this course. So we always have like a mix of students who can think differently. So I think that's one of the good things about how they structure the courses and how they have different people. So you'll never. So I've never felt competition in my class. Honestly, I've always felt more of part of a system where I'm learning from my from my friends and from my teachers, and I've never felt like, oh, I need to compete with the other 11 people. I've never felt that. To date, even like I think last month, all of us we just gather around to see what we're working in different companies. We have that relation of just being peer mentors to each other. So that's one of the good things.
Very
I think that system. Like. Yeah, very healthy environment. Yeah.
So after your masters, what path did you take? Like you got a campus placement, I believe, right?
Yeah. So I joined HCL as a UX designer actually. But when I was doing my masters, I clearly was interested in UX research. So I'll just maybe differentiate what is UX research and what is UX design. So UX research is basically focusing on the domain of just understanding users for the digital product, and designer is somebody who sort of envisions that product for the user.
Okay.
So designers are more into like creating those interfaces and tangible things that you see. And researchers are sort of focused on to understand what is the customer like do we have to target this user, and do we have to give this user this benefit and stuff like that. So we're thinking mostly in users and how they behave with the product, and designers are mostly like building the tangible stuff.
Got it.
So when I was in IIT, I had like a passion to do research than become a designer. But being a very young graduate, you can't actually say like I want to do research and I can't do design, and because research is mostly a little more let's say a mature profession and experienced profession. So I was like, I'll do design. So I took up a UX designer post. Yeah, but when I was in my company, I told my manager like I really want to start doing a lot more research because that's what I'm good at, and I really want to start doing that. But like fortunately, he understood that I'm very passionate about it. I had to struggle a little bit to convince him, but when I started doing and started kind of getting good results out of the process, he was like, "Yeah, let's give you more projects where you can do research." So I sort of gradually migrated from design to research. And I think when I left HCL, I was only doing UX research full time.
All right. So right now you are with Booking.com in Netherlands, and
Yeah.
it's quite a jump from India to Netherlands. And that too, I know,
Yeah.
like from our conversation, I know that it was right after your marriage, amidst a pandemic, and how was
Yes.
that whole jump, and how did this continent shift happen?
Yes. So I think I was working with an AI startup in Cochin, and I was thinking. So I wanted to. I had this vision that I need to be a researcher for products which have million plus users. So it was always in my head to reach there sometime. And so I'm a person. So I know this about myself. I don't set like very long term goals. I'm like a 3-year goal person. Like I know that in 3 years something that I really want to do. So that's how I had this whole mindset that I really need to start working for projects which have million plus users. So I started applying to all companies which have million plus user base, like Flipkart. In India, I was applying to Flipkart and Byju's, and maybe I applied to Google and things like that. So I got shortlisted in some companies, and I started preparing for interviews. So being a very young researcher, it's a very hard struggle because you have to give a lot of interviews to understand what the questions are going to be, and what is the interview going to be, yeah, and how to prepare presentations and stuff like that. And I started enjoying this process of just getting feedback from these interviews to, get a better sense of what I should present. So the first 2-3 interviews were quite hard because my expertise was not that good, and people had a different expectancy from me. But of course, having a degree in HCI, they always had that value for you as an interview candidate. Then I gave a Google interview, which was quite an enriching experience. I'm telling you, everybody should give a Google interview because their feedback is amazing. Like, it grows you as a person. Even if you don't qualify, I think everybody in life should give a Google interview if you're in tech, because their feedback is amazing. They give you proper feedback on every point that you've presented. It helps you a lot. So I gave a Google interview, but unfortunately, the team that I wanted to work with and some shift happened and I couldn't make it. So that's when I got the opportunity to work with Booking, or give the interview with Booking. And actually, it was like right after I finished my Google interview, and it was such a good thing because everything that Booking was asking was so in line with what I just given in my Google interview. So that quite helped me with my Booking interview. So everything I went through, I went through LinkedIn. You can go through LinkedIn as well. I'm telling you, everything can be done through LinkedIn these days. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, do you need a job in America and you're sitting in India and you're like, how can I contact that person? Just do it through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really good source, really good connection, a really good amount of recruiters are there. So I think it's a very positive platform.
So you got connected through a recruiter, right? To Booking.
Yes, yeah, through LinkedIn.
So like you sought the recruiter out, or she sought you out. How did that kind of happen?
Yeah, so she was already in the loop for the Google interview.
Okay.
So basically we were in touch, and then she recommended this. So she had this opportunity. She told me that there's this opportunity that I've seen, and I think you're a good candidate and you're fit. So you have to. I had to apply on my own, but she's the one who gave me the link and said that I think you'll be a good fit for this. So just apply. So yeah, so I think the right time for that. Yeah.
All right, Nazreen, any future plans on expanding your expertise as a user researcher?
Yeah. So I've mentioned this to you as well. So there is a platform called UX Coffee Hours. I'll post the link somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can share it out. It's an amazing panel of UX researchers, UX designers, UX content writers, UX managers, and they all mentor, and they've done that platform just to help researchers or designers who are starting out in the industry, who have lost jobs, who are starting out in different countries. It's a very voluntary based platform. So I think if you guys have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me directly for sure. But in that platform, you'll find a lot of diverse people to reach out to, and I think their expertise is quite valuable. And I would have been lucky when if I started out my career and I had like these people to reach out to. But I think Yeah. It's a quite a good platform. I will post the link somewhere. I'll send you the
Sure,
link through
sure.
chat.
I think I saw that on your LinkedIn. I can post it with the video.
Yeah. I'm available on that. My calendar is there. If you guys can go ahead and schedule 1 hour, or it's I think a 45 minutes chat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite useful, and I think it's easier to have. It's easier to. I know it's easier to have conversations with people, but getting these mentorships from such prominent people in the industry is going to be really helpful. So I think people should sign up for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nasreen. It was such an insightful, very crisp, to the point chat with you. I mean, like, it's a whole different thing. I've seen you as an architect during our undergrad days, and now
Yeah.
you're doing, and you're excelling in something entirely different, and that too in a very different and beautiful place. And congrats
Yeah.
on the big move, and good luck with whatever is awaiting you. I'm sure all good things await you, and good luck with that. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank
much for
you.
being a part of Women at Work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.